All right, folks, welcome into Human Resource Management, Gaining a Competitive Advantage. We had some winter weather this week, didn't we? Did you go out and play in the snow and throw snowballs, make any snowmen or anything? Boy, you should have if you didn't. I didn't know. I stayed in the house. I kept warm. But anyway, that snow that's on the ground, or that was on the ground, depending on when you watched this lecture, kept us from having class on Tuesday. So that's why I'm recording this video lecture, so that we can kind of still have class virtually. I elected to go with posting a video lecture as opposed to a Zoom meeting because I just wanted to be sure and get through the material. So be sure and watch this lecture in its entirety so that you can get all the information. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday, hopefully, in class. Now, we'll let you know that as far as your attendance grade is concerned, January the 16th will not count on the attendance grade. You won't get credit for attending. You won't get credit for being absent. It's just kind of like a null period. So it's not going to count for or against you on your attendance grade. I just wanted to be sure and let you know about that. And then, you know what, before we jump into the material, I did want to jump into Canvas. Let me see here. There we go. Let's jump into Canvas real quick, and I just want to show you the to-do list. We're knocking out chapters 1 and 2. To be honest with you, I think I'm going to take out discussion. This is going to be a part of week 2 now. Discussion chapter 2 and quiz 2 is going to be a part of week 2. So I will fix that. So you will see discussion question chapter 2 and chapter 2 quiz. You're going to see that move to week 2. So it won't be due until next week. And if you've already completed it, that means you're just ahead. All right, so good job on that. But we do have a to-do list here. So be sure and follow the to-do list. Again, chapter 2 and anything chapter 2 in this week will be on week 2. So be sure and change that for me. Or just remember that for me. I'll be changing it myself. Discussion posts. Now let's talk about discussion questions. All right. When you have a discussion, like for example, there's 2 discussion questions here for this discussion. So when you are answering these questions, they kind of need to be, well, not kind of, they need to be in a summary format, a essay format, paragraphs and sentences. So on your initial discussion posts, they need to be posted by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. All right, and those initial posts should be at least 2 paragraphs in length. All right, and each paragraph needs to have at least 5 to 6 sentences per paragraph. Now, folks, these responses need to have some substance to them. They don't, if you just go through here and just type in a bunch of stuff that's really doesn't pertain to the question, I can tell it's just filler sentences or things like that, you're not going to get credit. So give it some thought and respond in a manner that demonstrates that you are a junior or senior in college. Okay? So be sure and do that for me. And then you're going to need to reply to 2 of your peers. And when you reply to your peer, your reply needs to be at least 1 paragraph, 5 to 6 sentences each. Okay? Now, along with the length requirement, there is a requirement for you on your initial post only, not on your responses to your peers, but on your initial post, you're going to need to have at least 1 scholarly, credible news reporting reference. and I need you to cite that reference using the APA format. The reference definitely can be from the internet, but it can't be from Wikipedia or sites like Wikipedia. We need something a little more credible and scholarly than wikipedia.com. All right, so be sure and follow the instructions so that you can get full credit for your discussion questions. I'm seeing Aubrey here. Aubrey has already responded and put her initial post in here. And I'm not reading this, but looking at this, this is looking good to me. Just looking at it, it looks like we've got paragraphs, we've got sentences. Aubrey, let's see here. One sentence, two. There's two sentences, three. That's a 5-sentence paragraph right there. So that's going to work. So very good. I haven't read the content, but as far as the length, and you see here, she has noted, all right, she has noted a source. So I'll go back. Ooh, looky there, the good old SHRM certification. I like it. I like it. So be sure and look at all of the instructions so that you can get full credit for that post. Aubrey, I didn't mean to embarrass you in any way, but you're the one that responded, and as I look, it's a pretty decent example as far as length and citing a reference. So I just used you as an example. So thank you for submitting that to us today. All right, so that's the discussion post. Then you do have some, now this exercise strategy activity, and basically all this is, you're going to read all this information that I put in here and then answer the question. All right. Your response needs to be at least a paragraph, 5 to 8 sentences long. It probably needs to be a little more than that if you really want to discuss the advantages and disadvantages. But just respond. You're not required to respond to a peer for this exercising strategy discussion. And then as you look, you got a quiz you need to take. There's a quiz and chapter 1 quiz. You know what? Let me look and see if Aubrey did. Aubrey, did you do? No, you hadn't done discussion chapter 2 yet. Good deal. All right. So wait till next week if you want to on that one. All right. So you got the quiz. Now, I put a YouTube video in here about big data. We're going to talk about big data in our lecture today. I'm going to make reference to it. And then my PowerPoint presentation for the lecture today, I posted it in Canvas for your viewing as well. All right, so that's what, and there'll be another entry right under here that will be the video lecture that you will watch. And that's what I am recording as we speak. All right, as we speak. Very good. If you have any questions about anything like that, be sure and send me an email, and we will definitely answer your questions concerning the discussions and so forth and the activities for week 1. But today, in this lecture, we're talking about gaining a competitive advantage, human resource management, HRM, gaining a competitive advantage. So our objectives for this lecture today, I'm not going to read through all of these, but you see those there. We're going to discuss roles and activities. And folks, can I just be honest with you? This textbook that I have selected for this class is jam-packed full of information. All right, jam-packed full of information. So, to be honest with you, I'm not going to be able to lecture on every single section of the textbook. It's just an impossibility. We've got some other activities that I would like for us to do, other learning experiences for us to enjoy. So you're going to need to read the material. All right, read the chapters that we are discussing in its entirety, and that's only going to help you to learn the material so that you can own this human resource management course. All right? But we are going to discuss roles, look at some implications, affects a company on a balanced scorecard. Not in this lecture today, but we are going to be talking about social networking, artificial intelligence, and robotics, and how they're influencing human resource management. We're going to look at automation and so forth. So these are the learning objectives that we are going to discuss. So in introduction, the first thing I want us to talk about is when we talk about gaining a competitive advantage, I think we need to understand what competitiveness is. Now, we have a few athletes in our class. We've got basketball players, baseball players. We've got softball players and so forth. So you guys understand competition. You understand being competitive. So when it comes to a business's competitiveness, we're talking about a company's ability to maintain and gain market share in its industry. So that's competitiveness. And then competitive advantage, that's the condition, that's the circumstance that puts a particular company in a favorable or superior business position. When you have a competitive advantage, you have a circumstance, you have a condition where you have something that the other competitors don't have, and it puts you in a more superior position. So that is a competitive advantage. In business, there's a lot of ways to gain a competitive advantage through marketing, through advertising, through promotions and things like that. Companies use a host of strategies to try to acquire and obtain competitive advantage. Human resource management. Human resource management, these are the policies, the practices, and systems that influence employees' behaviors, their attitudes, and performance. So when we talk about human resource management, effective resource management has been shown to enhance a company's performance by contributing to employee and customer satisfaction, innovation, productivity, and development of a favorable, say that real fast 5 times, you can't do it, favorable reputation in the firm's community. So even in human resource, when you think about human resource management, you think about, just taking care of the employee, right? We've got to get your government paperwork in place. What about your benefits and your paycheck and things like this? Training for a new position. These are kind of the thoughts that we have when we think of human resources. We don't really think of human resource and human resource management as being a huge contributor to the profitability or the competitive advantage of a company. But there is a strategic human resource management that really contributes to the performance of the company. By being there and managing employee experience, even customer satisfaction, innovation, productivity, and then that favorable reputation in the firm's community. You see here, this is a graphic that's in your textbook on the strategic human resource management, some things that human resources does that contributes to company performance, and like analysis of and design of work. We'll talk about what that is in a later chapter. I'm getting text message here. human resource planning, recruitment, selection. And selection is, picking the right person for the right position. And then you've got training and development. By the way, training and development was the department that I was associated with when I worked for Verizon Wireless. I was a senior trainer, content developer in the training and development department. Compensation, that's the coins, that's the paychecks, that's important. Performance management, and then employee relations. And all of these points do work together to strategically help the company's performance in a positive way. All right. So what are the responsibilities of the human resource department? All right. So look at the function here. Look at the responsibilities. We've got an analysis of and design work. We talked about that. We talked about all of these a little bit. You got personnel policies there when it comes to policy creation, policy communication. Their employee relations, labor relations. This is a big one. Attitude surveys, employee handbooks, labor law compliance. I'll tell you what, I just have to let y'all know my dad sent a text message to me and my brother and my sister. I don't have a brother. My sisters. I'm the brother. I have two sisters. But anyway, he put us all in this group chat, and I'm going to tell you, my sisters just go overboard. So I'm going to silence that so it doesn't keep dinging. But anywho.com, back to it. Responsibilities of human resource departments. There's training and development. That has to do with orientation, skills training, development programs. You've got legal compliance. That's a cool one. When it comes to those policies, you need to ensure that, that's lawful behavior. There's safety inspections, accessibility accommodations, privacy policies, and ethics. So these are the responsibilities of the HR department. Now, when we talk about responsibilities and roles in human resource, we have to consider and remember the three product lines of human resources. The first there is the administrative services and transactions, right? This is the compensation. This is the hiring and the staffing. The emphasis here is resource efficiency and service quality. Not only do we see the administrative services and transactions, but you see the business partner services. What are we talking about here? Hey, I'm glad you asked. That's developing effective human resource systems and helping implement business plans. We got talent management. So the emphasis in this product line, if you will, is knowing the business and exercising influence. We're talking about problem solving, designing effective systems to ensure needed competencies. All right, so that's business partner services. And then lastly is the strategic partner. This is contributing to business strategy based on considerations of human capital. And just right off the bat, when we talk about human capital, what are we talking about? We're talking about the value of the human. The value of the employee. That's capital. That's how valuable that person or that employee group is to the organization. You've got business capabilities, readiness, and developing human resource practices as strategy differentiators. All right, so what's the emphasis in the strategic partner? Knowledge of human resources and of the business competition, the market, and business strategy. So definitely some very influential and valuable roles that human resources plays in the scheme and the success of an organization, a business, or a company, something like that. So the strategic role of the human resource function, some definitions here. We need to remember that with human resources and their strategic roles, there is a shared service model. And this shared service model is a way to organize the human resource function that includes centers of expertise or excellence, service centers, and business partners. So you have different channels, you have different work groups within the same organization, and this shared service model is a balanced distribution, if you will, of responsibilities, and all of these separate entities with their own responsibilities working together for a common goal and vision for the organization. Now, along with the shared service model, there is a strength among human resources when it comes to employee interaction and employee experience, and that is the self-service option. And self-service is just giving employees online access to human resources information. All right, so that's just giving them access. You're going to do this maybe through some human resource applications software, and we're going to talk about some of that here in just a moment. But I can log on as an employee and I can view my paychecks, or I can request time off, or I can, heaven forbid, I make post a complaint that needs addressing. I maybe need to submit a workplace accommodation because of a disability. These are things that can be accomplished using the self-service options when it comes to human resources. And then definition there, the last one on the page here, is outsourcing. And this is an organization's use of an outside organization for a broad set of services, human resource services. One of the popular outsourcing organizations for human resources currently, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Workday application. Workday it provides finance, human resources, and student faculty management cloud applications designed for the way people work in today's organizations. So Workday is a very popular human resource management system application. I know that Verizon Wireless uses Workday. The Children's Hospital in Little Rock, I think the Baptist Hospital, as well as the St. Vincent Hospital, they use Workday. So Workday is one of those popular platforms where employees and companies can manage their human resource activities. There are others that are out there. You may have heard of ADP. They kind of specialize in paychecks and finance management. Zenefits, Skillsoft is another one. Paychecks. I never heard of Paychecks, but I did a little research and just kind of looked it up. It was in our textbook. And then other HR applications like Accenture. So these are all applications that companies can outsource. They can outsource, for example, ADP. If I have a business or a company, I can outsource the paychecks, the sending of paychecks to my employees. ADP will take care of that for me. So when it comes to playing a strategic role in business, when when it comes to HR, human resource management, and their strategic role in the business, here, look at some of these questions that we would need to ask. What is human resource management doing to provide value-added services to internal clients? Do the actions of the human resource management support and align with business priorities? How are you measuring the effectiveness of HRM? How can we reinvest in our employees? So see, guys, these are the questions that human resource managers really need to be asking as they develop a strategy to contribute to the competitive advantage of the organization. What's the best change that we can make to prepare for the future? So, human resource management is a player, does play a role in the success of a business. Demonstrating the strategic value of human resource management, we're looking at the human resource analytics and evidence-based human resources. And what are we talking about here? Well, evidence-based means that we're demonstrating that the human resource practices have a positive influence on the company's bottom line or key stakeholders like employees, customers, community, and shareholders. So these are the entities, these are the individuals, if you will, that are working together to provide that positive influence on the company's bottom line. Now, what is the bottom line when we say a company's bottom line? What that means is, of course, profit equals expenses. No, revenue. I'm sorry, let me rewind. So profitability, profit equals revenue less your expenses. All right. So once you take your revenue in, and then you pay your bills, you pay the expenses, any money that is left over, that is your profit, and that's the bottom line. So when we talk about a company's bottom line, we're talking about a company's profitability. So that evidence-based human resource strategy, has a positive influence. It's demonstrating practices to have a positive influence on that company's bottom line. And then you have workforce analytics. And this is the practice. This is using data from human resource databases and other data sources to make evidence-based HR decisions. So the analytics, that's the information. You take the information, you formulate the strategy. All right? And big data is a part of acquiring the needed information to make those human resource decisions. And big data is simply the information merged from a variety of sources. HR databases, corporate financial statements, and employee surveys to make evidence-based human resource decisions and show that HR practices can influence the organization's bottom line or profitability. Now, in Canvas, there is a video, all right, a big data video for you to better understand what big data is. So go ahead and as a part of your lessons in human resource management this week, watch that video so that you can, have that understanding. So there are a plethora of positions that are available when it comes to human resource. You've got at the very top, obviously, you got that Chief Human Resource Officer. Sometimes they're called human resource directors. They're in education. Some universities have vice chancellors of human resource. So those are the managers. You've got global for those companies who have gone international, or they've implemented a global presence around the world. You need that global HR manager, and that global HR manager is not only concerned with the laws of and policies of the country where they reside, but the countries where the company does business as well. Other countries, what are their laws, and how do their laws impact, and how can we be compliant when it comes to those policies. You got an HR manager there. You got campus recruiters. We got some campus recruiters right on Central Baptist College's campus, right? So just a lot of different positions there. Salaries ranging there from 53 all the way up to 251 thousand in thousands there. So not a bad industry or organization to be a part of, right? So what about the education and experience needed for, a human resource, working in human resources? Well, a lot of, a 4-year college degree in human resources and industrial relations, business management. A lot of the education involves social sciences, humanities, even law. So you definitely, I'm just going to say, if you're going to be working in human resource management, you definitely want to have a 4-year college degree. And then even going a step further, and I'm not saying that it's necessary, but it would definitely benefit you to climb to a leadership position, having that graduate degree, that master's degree, when it comes to human resource management. There are some professional certifications. The HRCI, that's the Human Resource Certification Institute. They have a certification. A very familiar one is the SHRM. That's the Society of Human Resource Management. And personally, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm looking into that SHRM certification. I think I'm going to go ahead and get that certification myself. Having worked in human resources and training and development, I'm thinking very positively about researching and getting that human resource certification. There is a professional in human resource certification, and then the senior professional in human resources, the SPHR. So these are some professional certifications that if you are interested in going and working in human resources, that you may want to go towards completing. The competencies and the behaviors for human resource management, obviously, you need to have a human resource expertise, relationship management, consultation, leadership and navigation, understanding diversity, equity, and inclusion, communications, having a global mindset. Obviously, in many positions, you're going to need that ethical practice. And then the analytical aptitude. And what that means is being able to look at data and determining what the data is saying so that you can make a decision to do something better. So that's having that mindset of understanding what the data is saying. And then you have business acumen. And business acumen, I don't know if you understand what that is, but what that means is how is what I'm doing contributing positively to the organization? How is what I'm doing bringing in revenue? How is what I'm doing making a difference on the profitability of the organization? So that is what we're talking about when we say business acumen. And especially in human resources and in the department that I worked in, training and development, that business acumen, understanding that and being able to encourage employees in business acumen, helping them see their job and see their position as contributing positively to a company's profitability is a part of the human resource strategy. All right. There are some competitive challenges influencing human resource management. Looking at the graph here on this page, competing through the environmental, social, and governance practices. You have to deal with the workforce and employment implications of the economy. Understand and enhance the value of what's called the intangible assets and human capital. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment or two. We do have to meet the needs of our stakeholders, shareholders, the customers, employees, and the community. And we have to emphasize customer service and quality, recognize and capitalize on the demographics and diversity of the workforce. And then lastly, in the competing through environmental, social, and governance practices is deal with legal and ethical issues. So moving from that column to the competing through globalization. Now this is entering the international markets. Are we going to offshore or are we going to reshoring jobs? How are we going to work as we compete through globalization? And then in the last column there, competitive challenges influencing human resource management is competing through technology. So considering social networking, using the HRIS, mobile devices, cloud computing, the human resource dashboards, all of these things, applications that are connecting the world. What about considering the high-performance work systems and virtual teams? Considering the role of artificial intelligence and robotics. So all of these things are a part of competing through the environment, social governance practices, through globalization, and then lastly through technology. And all of these elements are working together as we build the United States business competitiveness around the world. So first, let's take a look at competing through environmental, social, and governance practices. So the first word that comes to our mind is sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, what are we talking about? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're talking about the ability of a company to make a profit without sacrificing the resources of its employees, the community, or the environment. All right? Based on an approach to organizational decision-making that considers the long-term impact of strategies on our stakeholders. And not just stakeholders, but the employees, shareholders, suppliers, and community. So sustainability. Sustainability involves the health of your organization. Are you a weak organization? Are you a strong organization? Are you holding on by a thread, or are you solidly built on an unmovable foundation? So it's the ability of the company to make a profit, and at the same time, we're not going to sacrifice resources, employees' resources. We're not going to deplete our community's resources. We're not going to damage or take away from the environment as well. So that is sustainability. And then stakeholders. What are stakeholders? Well, the stakeholder is the various interest groups who have relationships with, and consequently whose interests are tied to the organization. So stakeholders are anybody that is affected by the business or the organization. Employees, suppliers, customers, shareholders, the community where an organization or business exists. These are the stakeholders. And when we think about competing through the environment, social, and governments, we have to take into strong consideration the stakeholder. So as we look at let's look at some employment projections. All right, this information is in your textbook, but let's highlight some of the employment projections to 2029. So the projections are that there will be an increase of 6 million jobs between 2019 and 2029. This result from employment growing from 162.8 million to 168.8 million by 2029. The labor force is expected to increase by 8 million. Today, 93% of the United States jobs are non-agriculture wage and salary jobs. 13% are in goods producing industries. So we're talking about mining, construction, manufacturing, things like that. 80% are in service providing industries. 80% are in service providing, and 1.4% in agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. And then the distribution of jobs across industries is projected to be similar in 2029. 46.5 million job openings are expected. That's more than 3/4, resulting from the need to replace workers who retire or leave an occupation. Most new jobs added between 2019 and 2029 will be in service providing occupations. Interesting. That makes you go, right? Of the 30 fastest growing occupations, almost half are related to healthcare and related occupations, such as like home health care, personal care aides, and so forth. Let's take a look at that. Here are some employment change over 2019 to 2029. So you've got the wind turbine service technicians there. So we got 4,000, that's 61%. Look at the medical and health. You're looking at 133,000, 32% there, $100,000. So if we're going to gain a competitive advantage, we really have to consider the examples of the fastest growing occupations. These are your fastest growing occupations. And look, there's physical therapy, home health, occupational therapy, medical and health services managers, physician assistants. So there's a lot of room to grow in these industries. So as we take a look at this, when there's a shortage of qualified workers, what that means is employers are faced with the undesirable option of leaving jobs maybe unfilled, which can limit their production and growth. And this also means the market for knowledge workers who have in-demand skills is much more competitive. Now let's talk about this. Not only if there's a shortage of qualified workers, look what that says. It says that employers are faced with the undesirable. And the option that it lists in your textbook is just leaving jobs unfilled. Can I tell you something that's even more negatively affecting a business than just leaving a job unfilled? And that is putting somebody in that position that's not qualified for that position, or is not right for that position. And that is undesirable as well. So there are a lot of industries in our country that are facing some shortages. Let's just do a Google search for fun. All right, y'all want to? Let's do it. All right, let's switch over here. Let me bring this. I can bring this over here. Give me a second. All right, let's just do a little Google search here. Google.com. Let's see. Let's look up job position shortages in the U.S. Let's see what it says. Shortages have worsened slightly. This is U.S. Today since early last year. Looky there. Let me see what happens. Let's look at this. What are some job shortages? Let me close that. Uh-oh, no. Where's my list? I just want to look at the list. So we got in manufacturing, job shortages in manufacturing, educational services. There's a job, healthcare and social assistance, information, government, financial activities. I'm just scrolling through here quickly. So these are the positions. Transportation. And when it comes to transportation, warehousing and utilities. Hey, I know that there is a shortage of pilots. All right, I talked with some of our students who are interested in becoming a pilot. There is a lot of pilots are retiring, and these airlines are only growing in their need to provide flights for consumers. Construction. Oh, that's nice. All right, retail. A lot of shortages in retail. All right, so just going on Google there and doing a little search, it kind of helps us to see there are opportunities out there. There are positions available. And a company wants to acquire that knowledge worker. And a knowledge worker that's employees who own the intellectual means of producing a product or service. All right, so this is the employee, this is the individual that has some experience, right? And obviously, if you have an organization or a business and you can fill a spot with somebody who is experienced or knowledgeable, they have the intellectual means to do the job, that's always going to be a benefit. There is some organizations do take on what's called upskilling, and that's just training employees to improve or expand their current skills. So you got a knowledge worker that comes to work for you. Well, you can train them to improve and strengthen that skill that they already have. And then there's an idea called reskilling, and that's just training employees to acquire new knowledge or skills. When I went to work for Verizon Wireless, I went to work for them as a customer service representative. And I had never, let me say it again, I had never worked in customer service. So I had to go through some extensive reskilling when it comes to customer service. And but I was able to do that, and of course I had a knowledge. I believe that I was a knowledge worker. I had the intellectual means for the reskilling, so I was able to contribute, and I was able to promote and contribute to the profitability of the organization. So very good, very good. Intangible assets. We talked about in the human resource strategy, we wanted to implement the intangible assets. And when we talk about intangible assets, this is a type of company asset that includes human capital, customer capital, social capital, and intellectual capital. Now, capital, when we use that word capital, we think about that in the way that something is valuable. All right? So the value of the human, the value of the customer, and so forth. When it comes to human capital, you're looking at the tacit knowledge. And that tacit knowledge is just intuitive. They naturally can learn or solve problems and do things. You're looking at the education. And that's why when we were talking about in human resources, the degrees, right? Going ahead and getting that graduate degree and that education, that increases your human capital. Work-related know-how. If you've got some experience, work-related competence. So if you've worked in a particular area, then you're going to be more valuable for maybe a position. And then you've got the customer capital. You see that. You're talking about relationships, loyalty, distribution channels. The social capital, corporate culture, management practices, the coaching and mentoring relationships. And then you've got intellectual capital. So a business or an organization can have some value where they hold not only do they hold the know-how, but they hold the discovery rights, I like to refer to patents as. They have a patent on something, which means if you can't build it because I have the patent on it, or you have to pay me if you're going to build it. Copyrights, you got trade secrets, intellectual property. All of these are a part of that intellectual capital of the organization. And then we move to understanding and enhancing the value that's placed on the intangible assets and human capital. So when we talk about that, we talk about, number one, to emphasize empowerment and continuous learning, right? And what is empowerment? Well, that's just giving employees the responsibility, giving them the authority to make decisions, all right? And then empowering employees includes, all right, empowering employees definitely includes training and development. So you want to have a learning organization. This is an organization whose employees are continuously, they're attempting to learn new things, apply what they've learned, improve. We want to improve our products. We want to improve our service quality. So we enhance the value through empowerment and learning organization, also through adapt to change. And change is that adoption of a new idea or behavior by a company. I know I keep mentioning Verizon. I'm sorry, it's just the company I worked for the last decade. But with Verizon, they used to say all the time that change energizes us. Change energizes us. I can't say if I agree or disagree with that because, and I'm 54 years old. So I'm a little bit of a different generation than you guys who are juniors and seniors in college. My mindset is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And sometimes I have the mindset, even if it does break, let's try to fix it before we just replace it. Things have changed and things evolve. Things grow. And sometimes change is good when it contributes positively. But when change doesn't really make any positive contribution and even maybe negatively affects things, I think to myself, is that change really necessary or good? But change in the world of business, you have to adapt. I mean, back 20, 30 years ago, they were invoicing services by typing an invoice out on a typewriter maybe, or handwriting an invoice, and it was a piece of paper that was mailed to a vendor, and then the vendor received the invoice. Not the vendor, but maybe the customer received the invoice and paid, the invoice, paid the balance due, and they would actually mail the money in or mail the check in, and that was the way that you collected for services rendered. Today we live in a different world. Invoices and payments are for the most part all digital. Nobody types on a typewriter an invoice. We're just entering information into our computer systems. Customers are accessing their accounts online and clicking on make a payment, and they're entering in the banking information so that a payment is posted for a particular service or product. So we have to adapt to that. We have to be agile. The agility of a company. This is a company's and their employees' ability to anticipate and cause change, to adapt to it, and take specific actions to support change. So understanding, enhancing the value includes empowerment, learning organization. It involves change. And then thirdly there, employee engagement. And what are we talking about when we say employee engagement? Well, we're talking about this is the degree in which employees are fully involved in their work. There's an ownership there, and the strength of their job and company commitment. They're committed to what they're doing. They believe in what they're doing. They're engaged. They're plugged in. They're connected, and they feel as if they are valuable. Common themes for employee engagement include pride in the employer. The satisfaction with the employer. They're satisfied with their job. They see the opportunity to perform as challenging. There's recognition and positive feedback. They've got support from leadership. They're understanding the link between one's job and the company's mission. So these are the common themes that are associated with employee engagement. But not only do you have employee engagement, but employee experience. The employee experience. And this is everything in an organization that influences the employee's daily life, both inside and outside of the workplace. And then you have the employee value proposition, the EVP, and this is a strategic statement that communicates the company values and how they affect employees and how the employee experience reflects the values. So this is, if you're going to enhance the value that's placed on the intangible assets and human capital, thirdly, employee engagement is a part of that. And then human resource management includes managing talent. And talent management, this is attracting, this is retaining, developing, and motivating highly skilled employees and managers. So you want to be a part of that. Not only do we have talent management that adds value, but considering non-traditional employment and the gig economy. What are we talking about on non-traditional employment? Well, this includes independent contractors, freelancers, on-call workers, maybe your temporary workers and contract company workers. These are your non-traditional employees. Gig economy is referring to the companies who rely primarily on these non-traditional employment, non-traditional employees to meet service and product demands. So we have to consider, if we're going to place the value from a human resource management perspective, we have to take into consideration supporting those non-traditional employees and the businesses and companies that rely on them. And then lastly is, provide flexibility to help employees meet work and life demands. A lot of times when you go into businesses and organizations, they talk about the work-life balance, right? To having that work-life balance. I'm not real sure there is a balance, but you do want to have satisfaction, not just in your work life, but you want to have satisfaction with your personal life as well. You don't want your work life to, interfere or hinder your personal life. You want it to enhance that. I always said this. I don't live to work, but I work to live. Let me say it again. I don't live to work, but I work to live. All right? And human resource management is taking that into consideration for your company's culture and ensuring that the employees that you are supporting, they have that opportunity, they have that balance, and their work and contributing to the company's profitability is something that supports and enhances their life and is not a stress on their life. I hope that makes sense. I think it does. Well, guys, I'm stopping right there. Thank you guys so much we'll pick up here on Thursday where we left off. But thank you so much for your viewing of this lecture. And again, if you have any questions, cares, or concerns about the material, don't hesitate to reach out to me via email. All right, via email. And with that, I'm going to say so long and thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys on Thursday. See you later.